The Occoquan Radio Podcast is a private production and is not affiliated with the town of Occoquan. Opinions expressed on the podcast are solely those of its host and guests. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Ernie Porta, bringing you 10 to 15 minutes of irregular, unscheduled updates on things Occoquan and beyond. This episode will talk about the upcoming town council meeting, the unfortunate loss of some folks associated with the town, and a new historical marker. We'll talk briefly about the founding of the Occoquan Historical Society in our history segment, tackle some pronunciation difficulties involving one of our restaurants in the Rumor Mill Shredder entry, and close with upcoming activities in town. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. By all accounts, the Swords, Brooms, and Magical Beasts event in town, run by a variety of town businesses, was a success. We will likely hear a brief report on it from the primary organizer at the upcoming town council meeting this Tuesday. Speaking of that meeting, the agenda includes the appointment of new members to both the Planning Commission and the Architectural Review Board. The main item on the agenda, however, will be a discussion of the proposed general fund budget for the coming fiscal year, which begins July 1. This is the area of the budget on which town staff and the town council typically spend the most time, as it is the general fund that covers town operations. With the exception of a period during COVID, we have for some time now been able to balance the general fund budget without dipping into reserves that we need for capital projects and emergencies. We had to dip into our de facto emergency fund reserve during COVID, but were subsequently able to replenish it. At times, we have budgeted a transfer to balance the budget, but then during the year, staff have been able to manage expenses, or revenues turn out to be higher than expected, preventing us from having to make the transfer from reserves. We will also, at the upcoming meeting, get a brief update on the proposed events fund budget, reflecting some adjustments requested by the council at our most recent meeting. As those of you who get my free e-newsletter know, sadly we lost two individuals last week associated with the town. Resident David Nguyen died in a motorcycle accident, and Karen Smith, a longtime executive director of the Arc of Greater Prince William, which operates Spin-A-Web on Commerce Street in Occoquan, passed away. Please keep their family and friends in your thoughts. Some of you walking down to the footbridge by the Millhouse Museum may have noticed a new historic marker. This is a Road to Revolution marker that Prince William County installed with our permission and gratitude as part of the 250th anniversary of American independence being celebrated this year. As you will see from the marker, to both our east and west, elements of the Continental Army and French allies passed south on their way to the important colonial victory at Yorktown in 1781. We appreciate the county's Historic Preservation Division selecting the town as the location for the marker. Last, I want to thank the folks from Paddle DMV who spent time with us in Madigan's after their recent group paddle trip. Thank you for coming down to Occoquan. In our history segment this episode, I'm going to briefly discuss the formation of what we now know as the Occoquan Historical Society. This information is courtesy of some of the staff at the Millhouse Museum, who, while working on cataloging and reorganizing some of the paper materials and records at the museum, came upon a typed page entitled Occoquan Historic Group. Its first meeting, according to the document, was held on March 27, 1969, at the house of Mr. and Mrs. C.S. Lynn, Jr. That would be Carl Seymour Lynn. In attendance were 20 other individuals, some of whose names will be familiar to longtime Occoquan residents or those who grew up here. Among them were Jesse Curtis, Peg Williams, Gladys Chapman, Madeline Travis, Margaret Lynn, June Randolph, Marilyn Muse, Nancy Mooney, Pansy Mooney, Joan Herndon, Joan Rainwater, Sophie Donlin, Doris Green, Mrs. Claude Green, Joan Timberlake, James F. Timberlake, Alma Hall, Audrey Greenhouse, Martha Lynn, and Shirley Sullivan. The group established the fourth Tuesday of each month at 8 p.m. as their meeting time and appointed a nominating committee and a bylaws committee. They held their first organizational meeting on April 22, 1969, at which time they elected officers and selected their official name. It was this group of individuals who incorporated what was then known as Historic Occoquan, Inc., on June 20th, 1969, adopted the organization's bylaws on July 14th, 1969, and received 501c3 nonprofit status for the organization from the IRS on April 8th, 1970. About 2 years later, on Sunday, April 4th, 1971, they opened the Millhouse Museum for the first time and established their original regular operating hours, opening every Sunday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. from April through October. The name Historic Occoquan, Inc. generated confusion over time, with various organizations, private individuals, and outdated, unmanaged websites using Historic Occoquan in their names. Consequently, in 2008, the organization formally changed its name to the Occoquan Historical Society. The society continues to honor the 10 original board members of the organization by listing them on its website today. As always, I encourage everyone who is interested in learning more about Occoquan history to visit Occoquan's Millhouse Museum and consider joining the Occoquan Historical Society. You can find more information at www.occoquanhistoricalsociety.org. That's the intro sound for our Rumor Mill Shredder segment. This is where we pay homage to the fact that while for much of its history Occoquan was a prosperous mill town, the only mill in operation today is the rumor mill. Here we take on urban legends, myths, rumors, or other similar topics that need straightening out. This episode, we're going to discuss one of our popular restaurants in town, whose name sometimes causes pronunciation confusion. It's a restaurant I've mentioned multiple times on the podcast, and it's spelled D''ROCCO. I've heard some pronounce it Dorocco, like a rowboat, but as I have heard one of the owners imply, that pronunciation would make Italians cringe. It's not roque in Italian, but rock, as in, or more like, rock. And say D-rock, please, not D-rock. Ideally, you'd trill the R a little bit and say Dorocco. But let's be practical. You're really not going to trill the R, right? So just go with Dorocco, and all but the absolute purists will be happy. It's not a busy week in town for events, but we do have the weekly oil and acrylic painting classes at Laura Jones Fine Art Gallery, and the weekly Wine Not Wednesday at Dorocco's, where all bottles under $50 are half off all day. And don't forget St. Patrick's Day is Tuesday the 17th. And of course, on Wednesday at the VFW at 6:15, Gretchen holds yoga classes. For more information on these and other events in Occoquan, go to www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. Again, that's www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. Also, the Spring-Summer Occoquan Visitors Guide has hit the stands. This, as many of you know, is a high-quality publication. You can pick one up in Occoquan's shops, restaurants, town hall, and at visitor kiosks in Mamie Davis Park and by the Millhouse Museum. It's chock full of information. That brings us to the end of this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. I'm your host, Ernie Porta. Thank you for listening.